Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
So today we are going to be talking about our shadow self, and one of the reasons why it just seems like it was a theme, I've got to say. You know, I'm very grateful you all reach out to me all the time, sending me very personal questions, asking for specific advice on things that you might be going through. And I always try to send you a quick note back, but I go into more detail to answer you during these live shows, and there seemed to be a theme over the last couple weeks of questions and requests for advice dealing with aspects of ourselves, negative aspects of ourselves, or at least what we perceive as negative aspects for ourselves. So that's what gave me the idea of, let's focus on the shadow self today. Let's talk about the things that nobody really likes to talk about. You know, and one of the reasons why I feel this is really important is there is a very big, how shall I say, a lot of disinformation when it comes to enlightenment, spirituality, and our shadow self. Unfortunately, there are some within the spiritual, you know, non-denominational, current spiritual movement that believe we are not supposed to think negative things ever. We are never supposed to feel negative things ever. We are never supposed to look at negative things ever. And there seems to be this very ill-conceived notion that we have to suppress our negativity, suppress negative emotions, suppress seeing anything that is negative around us. Whether it be injustice, war, politics, anger issues, whatnot. And there's nothing more stifling to your spiritual growth than denial. Denial of what you're going through, denial of what you're seeing, denial of what you're feeling, and denial of a part of you that is a part of you. Your shadow self is a part of the whole self. Now, when is the shadow self a problem? Well, the shadow self is a problem when it becomes the master of your mind, the master of your intentions, the master of your actions, and the master of your thoughts. Of course, we don't want our dark ego self, and ego is a whole nother show, and I've talked about it a bazillion times, so please look that up in some of my older videos. But ego is a tool, but it also, I always say ego is a wonderful tool, but a terrible master. When it comes to the shadow self, it goes the same thing. It's the same thing. So, and the reason why I feel it's so important is that I promote and I teach the method of becoming self-aware through authenticity, peeling away the layers, peeling away the, how shall we say, the manipulations, the brainwashing, the programming that we may have been taught through the media, through religion, through our friends, through our family, through school, and whatnot, to peel away the layers so that we can become wholly our authentic self. And the only way that we are going to become wholly our authentic self is to remove that idea of denial of our feelings, a denial of being a human being. My tagline is empower your human experience. I've been saying it for, over 10 years now. Empower your human experience, but you're not going to empower your human experience if you're not allowing yourself to be human. Spirituality is about understanding you are a spiritual being within a physical body experiencing human experiences. So with that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to start going into some of the questions that you've sent me on this particular topic, or at least that which I consider to be on this particular topic. If you have any, and I'm asking you to please share your questions or struggles that you are going through either in the chat room on revolution.radio as well as in the comments section below the live video on Facebook. If you are watching this on YouTube, by all means, you are welcome to share your questions or your concerns or your struggles, and we can use them for a future video as well. But here are some that I've already received from some of you, and I think they're really good topics that will help everybody. And the first one, and I love this, of course, because it's from a fellow Indigenous person, actually from Canada. So I'm not going to be sharing your names, but you know who you are. Dear Bernard, I'm coming to you for some advice. I see chaos. I can see the chaos. I'm a Native American from Canada, and my culture was stripped from my father. And I never was taught how to use our gifts from the Creator. Right now, I'm lost. I feel like I'm cursing everything I touch. I'm doing some serious soul searching, and I'm worried about my friends, my family, and the living beings of our planet. There are several, how shall we say, several obstacles and struggles going on here in this particular scenario. One of them being is feeling separated from your culture. I can relate to that. Personally, as you all know, I was adopted by a Cuban family. I was never taught the ways of my bloodline, of my Native American tribe. I'm not even sure. I only know by my mother saying your mother was Apache, that I'm of Apache. I only know through DNA that I'm, almost 40% Native American, but I don't know my culture. I've had to relearn it. I've had to research it. And quite honestly, when it comes to the specifics, okay, and I don't know if you're feeling the same thing that I'm feeling, to the person who sent this question. I don't know if you're feeling the same thing that I'm feeling, but I've always felt connected to the earth. I've always felt connected to nature. I didn't necessarily need to have the traditions taught to me because my love of nature, of spirit, and whatnot has always been a part of my life. So I try not to feel angered. Actually, I don't feel angry that I lost my lineage, that I lost my ancestors' traditions. If anything, I feel that through my connection to Earth, through my connection to Spirit, that I actually have a cleaner dialogue going on with all of it. Yes, it feels great to be around others who are Native American or Indigenous and share in the experiences and traditions. But I guess what I'm trying to say is don't resent the fact that you've lost, you were never taught the gifts from your lineage, from your family or whatnot. You can teach yourself. You can allow nature to teach you. You can allow spirit to teach you, and you can allow your higher self to teach you. That's one of the many things I talk about. One of the many ways that I go about this path is teaching others how to connect with their higher selves. Let your higher self be your teacher by having an honest dialogue with your intuition and with spirit. It will show you the way. As far as feeling that you're cursing everything you touch, how many of us have gone through this? I mean, this is something that we all go through, and I'm not discounting or minimizing what you're going through to the person who sent this, but we all go through that feeling that everything I'm touching is dissolving, turning to dust, and being destroyed. I went through it recently, back in December. December was the worst month I've had in 20 years since I was a crazy party kid. We have these cycles. And while we may not have control of, and what I mean by control, I'm trying to be very clear about this, we may not have the ability to shift the momentum of what's happening. Okay, sometimes we get all riled up, our energy starts going in one particular direction, and that momentum has to play out. So sometimes we just have to be very careful to remain grounded, to remain the observer and let this quote unquote drama of destruction, for lack of a better term, you can call it bad luck, whatever it is, feeling that everything is dissolving. I will say the reality of it is that once you will come out the other side. You do come out the other side. It's inevitable that you will come out the other side. It's a matter of remaining strong while you're going through this period in your life, whether it lasts a day, whether it lasts a week, whether it lasts a month. It is only one aspect, one chapter, one little period in your life. The energy does play out. Let the story finish. You will end up on the other end and you will become stronger. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's the truth. You will learn. You will learn, and once you get your connection back to all of this, you will feel much better. I think we lost Treva. Okay. Well, Treva, please connect if you can. And then lastly, in reference to the question to the person who sent this in, they've got great concerns. I'm worried about my friends and my family and the living beings on our planet. Aren't we all? Again, I'm not minimizing it. There's a lot of upheaval going on. It is being brought to our attention. The divisiveness, the war, the ugliness of humanity, the horrible stuff that's happening. Yeah, it's horrible. It is. I'm concerned. We're all concerned. I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, a gentleman, a very prominent LGBT human rights lawyer, lit himself on fire, hoping to get people's attention as to the issues that we're dealing with when it comes to climate, pollution, and destroying our planet. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. We're all worried. And I will say this, is don't deny your worry. Don't deny your concern. That shows that you're a caring, loving, compassionate person. But I will say, you can only do what you can do. And I don't want to sound cliche, but one of the greatest things that ever came out of those 12-step programs is that serenity prayer, especially the part, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When we're talking about the living beings on this planet, are we going to survive? Are we going to be here in 10 years? Are we going to be here in a generation? Are we going to be here in 200 years? You're looking at a long timeline. We're looking at a very long timeline. So it is only the seeds that we plant now, that we have the power to plant right now, that is going to perpetuate a positive change, perpetuate a positive society. You're not going to be able to change it all at once. We can't save everybody all the time, every day. It's about being discerning, it's about having clarity, and it's about listening to your spirit about what you align with, where do you want to put your energy in order to help, what was the words that we used here, to deal with the concerns you have about your friends, your family, and the living beings on our planet. Where can you best utilize your energy? Where can you best feel fulfilled by doing something about it? Where does that work for you? For me, it's about raising consciousness. For me, it's about having these discussions. For me, it's about human rights. It's about the rights of the planet. It's about consciousness, raising our consciousness and teaching other people to have greater awareness, greater clarity, and a higher level of consciousness. For you, it might be saving the water. Water's one of many of mine, but being a water warrior could be saving the oceans. Whatever it is that you're drawn to, whatever your calling is, listen to spirit. And that little bit will help save your friends, your family, and all living beings on our planet. It does have a ripple effect, and you need to know that. Anyway, I hope that gives you some clarity to the person who wrote it, and I hope that it kind of resonated with all of us who are sitting here. I want to say hello to a couple of you that I see on the chat here on Facebook. Hello, Isabel. Hello, Inga, and hello, Leo. Great to see everybody here. We've got about 10 more minutes on this segment, boy. Again, it's going very quickly. let me pick one that's a little bit shorter, perhaps. So great. We're talking about the shadow self. That's kind of the main topic of the day. But I want to, this person, and I threw this in here because this person asked me, do angels exist? And you may not see the connection as far as the shadow self, but I immediately did. And the reason why I threw this question in there, do angels really exist? Um, because it gives us an opportunity to communicate with quote unquote light beings, for lack of a better term. So let me go ahead and answer it. Maybe it'll make more sense. Do angels exist? For me, angels are light beings. They could be considered, depending on your denomination, your beliefs, how they present themselves to you. Uh, Metaphysically speaking, they are transdimensional entities, transdimensional light beings. But that also could mean angels could be the same as light entities, as far as like transdimensional extraterrestrials. Could be gods and goddesses, Isis, Hecate, Thor, whatever. Basically, they're otherworldly, how should we say, otherworldly, what's intelligences, with particular affinity and vibrations that help in the natural order of all things in the universe. When I think of angels, I also think of the netters, the Egyptian word for gods and goddesses. They are part of the natural rhythm of things, a part of the natural vibration of all life. Call it a part of the chi grid, for lack of a better term. Some angels are for healing. Some gods are for healing. Some angels are for psychic ability. Some gods and goddesses are for psychic ability. But it's all a part of that web of life, that chi web. So, do angels exist? Yes, they do, if they exist to you, if that's how they present themselves to you, depending on your denomination, your tradition, and what you believe. Every culture, every tradition has an extra dimensional, transdimensional light being that assists humanity. Angels can also fall under the aspect of spirit guides and or ancestors who decide to hang around and help you along. They could be your angels. So again, it's a very loose definition. It depends on how you see them. Now, what does this have to do with the shadow self? And the reason why I wanted to throw this into the mix today, I've only got about 2 more minutes, and I hope I can finish what I'm saying here. The reason why I wanted to throw it into the mix for the shadow self is that they are there to help you understand, reconcile, and assist you in either understanding the aspects of your shadow self, the guilt you might be feeling, the sadness you might be feeling, the anger you might be feeling. For me, angels are someone to talk to. And I know it's cliche to say, but I'm going to say it, to pray to converse to have a sounding board, even if it's an imaginary angel, even if you don't know for sure that they're there, you have someone to kind of bounce something off of. And as silly as that sounds, the reality of it is that prayer, contemplation, and discussion and dialogue with your angel, your higher self, your guides, your light beings, are going to help you understand that aspect of your shadow self. What is it doing in your life? What is it trying to teach you? Why do I feel such anger for so and so? Why do I feel such guilt for etc., etc.? Again, it creates a sounding board, it creates a dialogue, and the reality of it is that I do believe in some form of spirit guide, and I do believe they are talking to us, and if you listen, you will get the clarity to understand what it is that you're conflicted about, that you're struggling over. So, do they exist? I'd say so. As well, if you like the work that I'm doing on social media, as well as on my website, my YouTube channel, here on Facebook, and you enjoy the work that I am doing and you'd like to support it, by all means, you can go to patreon.com/Bernard Alex Alvarez. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month and receive exclusive MP3 downloads. I have a 2-hour class there on how to communicate with your higher self and your spirit guides, which is available to all of my $5 a month patrons. As well, there's a copy of my book for you, all kinds of goodies just for my patrons to thank you for supporting this work, and I really appreciate that. As we are talking about today, meeting our shadow self, I just saw a question, and I hope it didn't get lost. There it is. Very good. We have a question that someone posted, and I really want to talk about this because I think I go through this, and probably all of us go through this in one form or another. This person is saying, I'm trying to make positive changes for myself, for my happiness, but why is it when I help others and making sure they never feel how I feel with similar struggles? I cannot take my own advice, and it's frustrating. What can I do to change that negative thinking of myself? Boy, can I relate to this. It's very, and I always joke around when it comes to, well, like for example, for me, it's about business. I'm great at running another person's business, but as far as running my own and actually trying to make a living, I struggle. I don't feel, I don't know if it's a thing of being worthy of it, but I will say it's about self-care. It is about self-care. One of the things I will say that jumps out at me, and I might be getting this wrong, but when we are helping others make sure they never feel the way I feel, we need to understand that we cannot control how other people feel. We cannot control other people's experiences, and we must understand that they are on their own spiritual path. They are going, actually, there is a chapter in the Book of One explaining all of this, how whatever happens to them, it is meant to be. It is meant to be a lesson, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether it's a victory, whether it's a loss, whether it's a struggle. It kind of pushes us and guides us to that place of authenticity, of spiritual awareness and spiritual awakening when it's utilized correctly, if we understand the lesson. The reality of it is, you know, if you burn your hand on the stove and you ignore the fact that stoves burn your hand, you're going to keep burning your hand on the stove until you realize when you put your hand on the stove, you're going to get burned. So it's not up to us to try to make other people feel better, or try not to feel or go through the negative things that we go through. You know, a lot of parents go through this. A lot of friends go through this when we see our friends struggling. A great example of this is if you have somebody who's in recovery. I have a very dear friend of mine who's in 12-step recovery, and they'll slip once in a while, and I used to think I could control them from not doing that same negative behavior and get out of that pattern. It's not up to me, it's up to them. They have to want it. They need to change. They have to want to change. Now, when it comes to, let's see, the aspect of this where you're talking about, I can't take my own advice, and it's frustrating. That is a bit more of a struggle. And what I mean by that is it's very hard to constantly try to be in service to others, especially those of us who aren't in service to others. We have a tendency to go overboard in taking care of other people, and we seem to deny ourselves that same care, love, and compassion for ourselves. Now, whether it is because we're distracted by being in service to others all the time, or perhaps we feel that we're not worthy of that, perhaps it's somewhere in the middle. I don't really have an answer of how to overcome that. I feel that I'm going through it. I believe that we're all, those of us who do succumb to that, you know, caring for others more than we care for ourselves, it's something we need to overcome. And I believe it takes practice. I've started by having something that I call a me day. 1 day a week. I work 6 days a week. Most people know I'm doing this 6 days a week, whether it's here on Facebook, the Diversity Center, volunteering in my community, or just helping people one-on-one. I work 6 days a week. I used to work almost 7. And I decided I need a me day. 1 day a week that is just for me. Nobody bother me. I am not here for you. I don't care if your house is on fire. I am not here. I am off grid. So by having this 1 day a week that it is on me, it's giving me the practice of self-care. That's the day I take care of myself. I'll pamper myself. I'll do something that I want to do. You understand what I mean? Do something where there's one day where you have no responsibility other than that to please yourself and care for yourself, your own self-care. Um, how that manifests is going to be different for everybody. For me, it's being able to relax, watch movies, um, go to Planet Fitness and sit in the hydro massage chair, whatever it is. Everyone has their own way of self pampering, but give yourself a me day, and that will get you accustomed to knowing that it's okay for you to take care of yourself. It's okay for you to follow your own advice. And I hope that answers the question. I really don't have a clear answer for that. I can only share what I'm going through with that, and I hope that that helps. And this is a very interesting question as well. This is was sent to me. Actually, was sent to me quite a while ago, and I just didn't know how to fit it in here. This is a really tough one. This is really tough. This person writes, "My son recently passed away, and though I am a very spiritual person, I have a difficult time seeing any joy or sense a connection with spirit or the universe right now. I am struggling with the joyful memories that cut like a sword when they come to me, memories that I had with my son. Any advice would be appreciated." We're dealing with grief here. Grief is a part of life, unfortunately. The only constant in life is change, and the only constant cycle in life that we know is real is the gestation period, the birth period, the life period, and the death period, and then again the gestation period. That's a cycle of life and death. We can't escape that yet. In this realm and this dimension of reality, we are living in the life and death cycle. It is very heartbreaking, and I wouldn't know, so I can't share how heartbreaking it is, but it must be very, very heartbreaking to lose a child. I can't imagine. I know what it's like to lose a pet of 15 years. I know what it's like to lose a friend before their time, a young friend. But grief is different for different people. And I do understand when you feel cut off from the divine, no matter how spiritual you are. Especially if it was something that was not expected, if it was a drastic loss of, say, a car accident or some kind of illness that came on quickly that nobody was expecting. It's a little different when we get older and we're getting sick, and we see our friends or our family members starting to fade away. But there's a difference when it's someone young, robust, and full of life, and it happens suddenly. It could be a shock to our it is a shock to our reality. That disconnection, and I kind of relate to what you're saying in the sense of the memories are too painful. When I went through my divorce 7 years ago, it was very, very, very painful. I didn't want to remember all the good times because it was hard to see that person, have them in my heart, and be reminded how much I love them. But I will say this: you don't want to forget. So it's important to find a happy medium, perhaps, where you can remember the good times without. We don't want to end up being erasing all the good memories, because the more you shove them down, the further they're going to go away from you, and you are going to lose those wonderful memories. But of course, I understand how painful it could be. How do we get that? How do we get that happy medium? I really don't know how to answer that. The only thing I can share is awareness of and the compassion of understanding of seeing how that would be very painful. As far as that disconnection with your spirituality, of course you're thrown for a jolt. And right now, it probably is very necessary just to kind of, again, self-care for yourself. Be aware that you need to be pampered. You need to take care of yourself. I mean, okay. I thought I was hearing some background noise. Whoever's got their mic on, please be aware. Um, so please just pamper yourself. And unfortunately, the reality of it is time will make things easier. It never goes away. Unfortunately, when it comes to grief, it just gets a little bit easier, but it never actually goes away. We just learn to live with it, and that's just the reality of it. As far as your spiritual nature, eventually you will want to reconnect. Eventually you will want to start participating in your spiritual practice, but it's okay to take a break. It is. If anything, I would recommend prayer. Pray for guidance, pray for strength, pray for clarity, pray to have something brought into your life that you can build and grow on, because when we lose something, it's important that we begin to grow. Loss and growth are two sides of the same coin. So I hope that helps. I don't know if that really answered it. And I know grief is so different for so many people. We talk about the stages of grief, but everyone goes through it differently. But it is nothing to be ashamed of. We are allowed to grieve. And, this is a time where self-care comes. And who cares what other people think? You're going to go through it your own way. And give yourself a break and allow yourself to go through it in the way that you need to, even if that means dropping your spiritual practices for a little while until you get centered and grounded again. Oh, this one's great. Let me refresh I want to refresh the stream just in case I see any questions or comments that I might be missing. In case any of you do have anything that you're posting live, I want to catch it. Okay. Someone had sent this a little while ago, and I can relate to this. Again, I kind of touched on it a little bit. So, again, dealing with the shadow self, dealing with the fact that not everything in our life is hunky-dory and not always rosy. There are people in our lives that drive us crazy. There are there are jobs that drive us crazy. There are partners, husbands, wives, lovers that can drive us crazy, and that's a part of life. Let's not deny and make believe that we're living this happy, rosy, perfect life. If you're having struggles, you need to be aware of them and be realistic about them. So this person writes, Bernard, I am very awakened, or at least I think I am. I meditate every day. I volunteer at a local teen center. Wow, sounds familiar. I am a vegan and a Reiki master, but my girlfriend of 9 years is making me crazy. Oh, she drinks all the time and makes fun of my clean lifestyle. The other day she came home totally wasted and broke my grandmother's crystal horse that she left me. It broke my heart. I don't know what to do about her. What my role is, and I wonder if we actually belong together. Any advice will help. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the shadow self, the nitty-gritty, the reality of our day-to-day life. I don't care how spiritual you are, you're still going to deal with day-to-day human problems. Unless you're going to be a monk and go live in a cave somewhere and never have human interaction, you're going to have human problems. People say, oh, I don't like drama. I don't want to be around drama. Well, when you're dealing with other human beings, what we call drama is really just human struggle, conflict, and a part of life. So it's not drama, it's called life. As far as what this person is saying and asking about, the question I'm hearing here, the situation and the struggle that I'm seeing here is that we have this person who's been with this other person for 9 years, and the person who writes considers herself spiritual and very helpful and living in service. On the other side, we have a partner who is self-absorbed, having a negative influence on their life, and probably self-harming themselves. The question I have to ask you is, do you love them? Do you love this person? The second thing I have to ask you is, do you feel you would be happier without them in your life? Or are you committed to this person in the long run? They don't say whether they're married or whatnot, but they just say they've been together for 9 years. Now, I don't believe in sacrificing your happiness because you made a commitment to somebody. Of course not. If things get rotten, if things get violent, if things are just completely out of the control and they cannot be salvaged, it's about having the courage to cut the cord and move on with your life. However, if this person still makes you happy, if this person is still very much a part of your soul and you still see a future with this person, you need to ask yourself, can you accept this type of behavior within your life? Or are you just constantly going to judge them? And I know I'm sounding a little a little crooked here or whatnot. What I'm trying to say is it's hard for you, it's hard for us to know when it's time for us to move on. The reality of it is I have lived with partners who have had drug addiction and have gone down the path and ended up in prison, and I've had other partners who've had drug addiction, clean themselves up, and it was through my patience and my support that their life became great, and we ended up, actually, my former husband, for example, cleaned himself up, got his act together, did very good for himself, and we were very happy for a few years until I decided I'd had enough. But the reality of it is that do you want to support them in their growth, or do you feel it's time to cut the cord? That's what I'm trying to say here. That's a very tricky situation. And without knowing more details, I don't want to give advice to say, okay, you need to do this or you need to do this. The only thing I can say is that you need to seek clarity on the situation. Pray for clarity. Meditate for clarity. Do I love them enough to support them to change? Do I love them enough to give them space to see that they can change? And I'm not saying you need to enable them. I don't want to get into too much 12-step recovery stuff here. You let them know that that behavior is not acceptable. Them coming home and breaking a family heirloom is not acceptable. They need to know, and there need to be boundaries set to show that you will not accept this type of behavior within your lifestyle or within your home. If that means them moving out of the place, let them move out of the place. It doesn't mean you need to break up, but you just don't want to live with that. You need to choose what's right for you. Are you willing to be with someone who needs to work through their problems? You know, it's neither here nor there. There is no black or white answer. So I would say ask for clarity and set boundaries. Don't enable them, but show them that you love them. Let them know that you love them, and try not to interact with them out of judgment or out of anger or out of hate or out of frustration. When you do interact with them out of compassion, of understanding, of support for change, support for a better way to live. But you also have the right not to have that in your life, and by all means, set some kind of boundary for that. And again, meditate for clarity, pray for clarity. But also know it's their responsibility, it's their choice if they are going to change. You're not responsible for them. You're not. You're absolutely not responsible for them. I hope that helps and gives you a little bit of clarity. And to anybody else that might be going through the same thing. I'm sure many of us in this world have gone through something similar. Great question. Following up. How do I find clarity to make a big life-changing decision? It's funny how these ended up right next to each other. I did not mean for that to happen. So let me follow up then. So here we have the scenario. Somebody needs to make a big change. I gave you a great example from the last letter that I got. How do I find clarity to make a big life-changing decision? As someone who just went through this myself, I can tell you that for me, I'm only going to share with you what I can do and what I've done with my life and my spiritual practice. When I have a big life-changing decision, usually when it's that big, it's going to cause me a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of fear. So of course, I have all these scenarios going in my head. Well, if I do this, then this will happen. If I do that, and then that will happen. And I'll worry about which one, and I'll go back and forth. But the one thing I will not do is I will not act. Or perhaps it's better to say I will not react. I let it sit. I let it stir. I let it stew. I let it simmer. And I do meditate and ask for clarity. I don't react immediately. If it takes me 2 or 3 days to come up with an answer, it takes me 2 or 3 days. If it takes me 2 or 3 weeks to come up with an answer, it takes me 2 or 3 weeks. But in that sense, I'm very gentle to myself, that I don't pressure myself to come up with an immediate answer. And if it's dealing with a job or someone I'm working with, tough. If I can't give you an answer until I'm ready, I'm not going to. I'm not going to be pushed into a reactive answer. So number one, how do I find clarity to make a big life-changing decision is don't react. Don't come from fear. Give yourself a break. Allow yourself to be grounded. and allow the inspiration to come to you. We all will be inspired to go in the right direction when we learn to have that communication and dialogue with our higher self, with our intuition, with our authentic self. What do you really want? What really? I used to do something. We only got a few more minutes, so hopefully I can get this out in the 2 minutes that we have left. I used to do this test, and I haven't done this here. Actually, I haven't even done it in my life for a while, but I used to share this a lot. Imagine your decision, and it's probably pretty similar to when people do those. I already forgot what it's called. Those resistance things. I forgot what it's called. Do a test. Imagine one. Let's say that the decision is to move to another state and work for one company, or stay in the same job you have and just get a raise. But the other one's going to be a whole different life, starting a new life and more money. So imagine yourself in the one scenario of moving to another state and starting a new job. Does it feel exciting? Does it feel expansive? Listen to your body. Are you expanding toward that situation, or are you cringing from that situation? Your body is a great way to read a situation. The same thing goes for the local one and just getting a raise and just staying where you are. Do you feel drawn to that? Are you expanding to that, or are you cringing? What is your central nervous system telling you? Is there excitement? Now, excitement can lead to anxiety, so don't get anxiety and excitement mixed up. Be very clear. Is it making me anxious, or am I just so excited that I'm like, I'm getting all hyped up about it? Same, and again, this can be used with any situation, whether it be with a partner, whether it be with a family member, whether it be with a new job, a new home, a new car, a new spiritual path, taking a class, spending, I don't know, $1,000 to go to a Buddhist retreat for a month, I don't know, whatever the scenario is. Should you do it? It's a big decision. It's a really big decision. Where are you going to get your clarity? You're not going to get your clarity by reacting. So allow yourself the opportunity not to react. Allow yourself to be able to listen quietly to your intuition, your higher self, and listen to your body. Listen to your body. Pray for clarity. Meditate for clarity. Those are the things that I do. And I hope that helps a little bit. Oh, shoot, we've only got about 2 more minutes. Actually, all of these kind of already fell under the last, over everything that we've talked about. But I will say this, when it comes to our shadow self and these things that make us anxious and make us feel uncomfortable, it's a part of our life. It's a part of human skills of, being a human. These are tools that we need to utilize in order to live this human experience to the fullest. Being in denial of something that makes you unhappy or uncomfortable, stuffing it down is only going to bring it up later on. Dealing with guilt from old things. There was some great stuff here. Hopefully we can go into in the coming weeks. But dealing with guilt from old experiences and things like that, or should I say denying guilt, Hey, I was a party kid from South Beach in the 80s. I had a lot of guilt for a lot of the rotten things that I did, but I did learn to overcome that and give myself a break, and I hope that you will too. Your shadow self is there for a reason. Your shadow self is a part of the 100% of you. It's the authentic self. Do not deny your humanity. Do not deny your humanity. You will never become 100% authentic. It's about learning how to interact. It's about learning how to have that inner dialogue. Motorcycle go by. Sound like a Harley. Have that inner dialogue with yourself and understand, what is it trying to teach you. Again, it's not negative. It might be a little scary, but the shadow self is a part of the whole, the yin and the yang. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's just a part of the everything. Learn how to interact with it and have the courage and learn the tools to deal with it. Anyway, we're out of time, everyone. And I forgot who's next week. I don't know if Betsy's next week or the week after. If not, maybe we can just continue these wonderful conversations. By all means, please feel free to send me your questions. You can send it to admin@bernardalvarez.com. and or go ahead and send them to me here on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Bernard Alex Alvarez. Send a message, and we'll keep this discussion going. And I hope these discussions are helping you and giving you a little bit of clarity by me sharing some of the experiences that I've had and the methods and tools that I was taught, and what I'm doing. And let's keep that discussion going. I love you, everybody. Have a great week. Bye bye.